Hey, this is Prometheus giving you more than the meta. Guys, I had a recent Patreon put a request in to me to provide you some defense on how to stop a stretch run play. He's been struggling with a stretch, and let me just kind of read this off to you. So basically, he says, hey Prometheus, I'm having a hard time stopping the stretch play in strong eye formations or just any heavy set formation. I use the Buccaneers defensive playbook and have some other defensive formations like the 46 normal or bear and the 43 bear, but still no luck. Please help. So guys, I want to talk about ways that you can go ahead and take your defenses and make it a little bit stronger than what you've probably been using. I want to show you basically some certain things that you look at when you start labbing this game. And why maybe your defense isn't necessarily is going to be an effective defense against a run. Now, currently, right now, a lot of people are using a lot of man defenses right now. That's a meta online because man defenses don't get really pressed quite well. Man coverage is still a very effective thing. So that's why people kind of go to the man defense, because it makes running defense very simple, opposed to having, you know, cover 4, cover 3, cover 2, and making a lot of adjustments. So I'm just going to show you the I-form wing halfback stretch, and the defense that Chris likes to use essentially is like a cover 1 type defense, and actually a strong defense historically against the run is a cover 1 hole like this, where you have one linebacker that plays a hole and you got man coverages and stuff like that. So I want to show you this play, and one of the things that you might have not noticed with this particular play, as far as what you see instant replay, as far as your defensive players. Now I want to show you, you've got these guys manned up. You know, you've got these two guys right here manned up, and you got this guy down here. Your running backs are all manned up. But watch the defenders right here on the edge and see how they react. All three of these guys right here all react in a funny situation. They go ahead and take steps backwards and basically give yardage to the offensive line. So take a look at this. This guy takes a step backwards. This guy takes a step backwards. And this guy actually initially takes a step backwards. It kind of freezes, but then he actually takes care of the outside edge. He's actually trying to protect that outside edge. But the problem is that these guys are actually getting down the field and actually getting at least 5 or 6 yards, giving it a hole for the running back to run through. So how do we go ahead and make adjustments where we can go ahead and get these guys to actually play run fits? And a lot of it has to do with just changing up the defensive structure that you have. It's not necessarily perfect, but it will get things. It will help you a little bit. One other thing too with a stretch, what happens is these defenders are actually going to be taken out off to the side of where the stretch is run. So if you take a look at the offensive lineman is going to be taking out this guy right here. This offensive lineman is going to be reaching to this guy. This offensive lineman should be reaching out to this guy, and then this offensive lineman. These guys are all reaching off to the right. So if you see how these guys actually just step back and then they reach, that's what's going down right there. So you got to double team in this situation because you've got one guy that's right over the nose tackle. But you can see these guys are all going off to the right and then reaching to the outside defender for the most part. So that's another thing you need to understand when it comes to setting up run fits against stretch plays. So one of the fastest things you could do is just go ahead and run your defense and just take your defensive line, slide these guys over. In particular, your defensive line, slide these guys over. And what that should do is just kind of get just another defender that actually can get in the area. That's not really reliable, and also it puts you in a situation where you're over leveraged off to the left, and then your opponent can basically go and stretch the ball off to the left and get a big yardage. So we don't necessarily want to do that. We want to give our opponent kind of the same look. But let's just go ahead and just take our guys and just put them on off the side. You can see how there's still a good running lane right there. And let's just go back and instant replay and show you that once again, those guys that are supposed to be in man assignments, they're falling back on their heels. You see how they're falling back on their heels, and with basically taking these offensive line and shoving them off, you can see how these offensive linemen are actually getting to the next level. So we need to get these guys down in the box, and I don't think cover 1 is going to cut it. So Chris stated that he likes to run cover 3. Let's just go ahead and push these, run a cover 3. and see what happens with this. Let's watch what happens. Now, I think here, in this type of situation, we actually have those guys playing a little bit better run fits in this type of situation. So let's watch these two guys right over the middle, these two wide receivers. See how he bites down immediately and gets into the zone? That's a good sign. You want to actually have that type of situation. This guy's, now he's attacking the ball. This guy kind of drops back, but he's not dropping back like 5 yards. He only just drops back just a little bit because he's got a pass responsibility. And this outside defender right here, once again, plays the outside and defends that for you. And you got your line taken care of. So what's another thing that we can do to go ahead and beef this up? Well, one of the things you can do to beef up your run game, obviously, is to use your middle linebacker with a cover 3 shell. That's going to help you dramatically because he's typically not going to have any kind of responsibility against any kind of a run fit at all. And most blockers are not going to be getting up to this middle safety. So that's the most important thing. Now, does that expose you to a deep pass over the middle? Yes. So that's the risk of you using your middle safety, your middle safety, in a cover 3 shell, is that you can get beat over the middle, but you can make adjustments to bait your opponent. One of the things you could do is take this backside linebacker and put him in a deep third, and then basically that means that this guy is going to fall back over the top of you in case your opponent baits you. So that's one adjustment that you can do, but there's other things you can do. Now, what I like to do also too is I want to have my defensive backs bite against the ball. So one of the things I can do is take my outside defenders, my corners, and put them into squats or hard flats. Preferably, my preference is soft squats. They have more matching principles. And what this does is that these guys will actually go ahead and bite against the ball a little bit quicker and get into the backfield, because cover 2 shells, cover like squat flats and hard flats. These guys have run fits, instantaneous run fits, and you're going to see them actually go ahead and fill up the gap right there. And a lot of times what's going to happen is the blockers are going to come out there. But you can see how these guys, because of the run fits, they're going to basically go ahead and get this guy down to maybe a 2-yard challenge. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at another thing that I discovered. Cubing contained, for some particular reason, with this cover 3 shell, it seems to be working very well against this type of stretch play. So for some reason, the QB contain gets the outside and actually really, like this, I'm talking about a overall rating of 68, which is the linebacker that's actually jumping into the gap. So we're going to set this up like this. This guy, that linebacker, is essentially going to get into the gap and actually go ahead and blow that particular play up. And what's cool about it is that you're not over leveraging your guys with this setup. You're not putting your guys like this. You're not giving your opponent any kind of a tell. So that's what I like about this setup. So we're going to go ahead and QB contain. We're going to press our guys down. I don't know why these guys set up like that, so let's go ahead and press these guys down. Set QB contain. And then we're going to use our middle safety and try to go ahead and take away any kind of a cutback. But you can see how that guy actually bites in the middle of the field. So that's, when you're labbing, you want to do that. Now, I want to show you something. So let's try this defense against random stretch plays and see how well it works against that. So once again, we're going to go ahead and run with the cover 3, press. And we're going to put our guys in squat flats right there. And you can see right here, basically, that run gets stuffed right at the line of scrimmage. QB contain, do squat flats out there. And you can see basically these guys, everybody plays gaps, and your responsibility is to play that last defender. So even with a good broken tackle, he still is stopped at the line of scrimmage.
Watch out now, 50 fury. Set.
Like there's really nowhere for him to go.
97.
Now here's an interesting defensive setup. We've got basically a stretch to the opposite side. And you can see right there, really there's nowhere to go with it. So this is a really easy defensive setup. You know, obviously if you think you're in a kind of a run-pass situation, I would just press and then basically just do the QB contain and leave those deep zones out there. They're not gonna attack as well. But if that's a run-pass situation. But if you know the guy's going to run, I would really commit to the run by putting these guys into flats on the outside and using the guy right over the middle of the field. And you can see that guy right there. If he gets, if he gets juked, that's fine. But you just want to have your defenders in the area. And if you're concerned, once again, if it's a run-pass situation like this particular set, what you can do is put your one guy in a deep third like that, and that will protect you against that. It's gonna put you in a situation where you're gonna have to make sure you shoot the gap correctly, but it's the type of situation that's just a little bit better for you. So once again, guys, thank you for your support. Other defenses you can look at and actually go ahead and play around with. Let's just go ahead and take a look at one defense real quick. It would be like a cover 4 shell. So you got basically a cover 4 shell right here with it, which would be like a cover 4 quarters, and you press. Same type of situation. These guys should basically go ahead and get out, and you put your guys into squat flats or flats on the outside. They should probably go ahead and tack and get out there. So that's another defense you can play around with. So once again, guys, thank you for your support. I'll be rolling out more offensive and defensive tips to take your game to the next level. Until next time.